we're settling in, I have a couple of announcements I'll go ahead and make. One is that there are some Major League scones back there to be eaten if you hadn't availed yourself of that opportunity. They're more than worth the trip to the table, I can tell you that. I want to welcome you again, those who were here yesterday, those who are new with us today, to the 7th annual sessions of FCNC. I'd like to open with prayer this morning. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we ask for your presence with us today in this place. We thank you and we praise your name that you allow us to be here, to be together, to do your work. We ask that you equip us, guide us, and help us. We'll give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. A few things I wanted to call your attention to as we begin this morning. One is the silent auction. If you hadn't availed yourself of the opportunity to look at what's on the tables and maybe to make a bid or two, I'd encourage you to do that. The proceeds for that go to the missions committee of FCNC. So the money will be well used. The other things I'd like you to pay attention to are these three baskets over here. These are love offerings for Quaker Lake Camp, for Baltimore friends who are in need of a permanent place to meet instead of just having to rent a room somewhere, and for Samuel's church, our Guhita friends down in Mexico. They've sustained quite a bit of hail damage to their roof back in March, and the offering will go toward replacing that roof. So I'd ask you to pay attention to these donation baskets and contribute as the Lord leads. Brent McKinney, if you would come and share with us this morning for the Outreach Committee.
I received some information yesterday from Judah, so I updated my program while Paul is loading that.
Good.
Let's see, serving on the Outreach Commission this past year has been Michael Falk Jr., Hugh Spalding, Sandra Brown, Sandra Moore, Larry Griffin from King Creek, and myself. We could use a couple of additional members on our committee for the coming year, so see the nominating committee about that. Let me begin by, Paul, can you go to the second slide? There we go. Let's take a look at the purpose. Let's just begin by that and reviewing it. It's in the program every year. It never changes, but let's review it just for a moment. The commission is responsible for looking after 4 of your investment funds. Under oversight by a representative body, here we are, assist in the organization, spiritual life, and financial needs of new meetings, existing meetings, and small meetings. Give support with grants for a new building, salary for the minister, and program needs. Now, program needs, folks, covers about everything. Whatever your meeting does, that's your program. So whether it's Sunday school materials or pastor salary or new carpet on the floor, that's part of your program. So it covers about everything, one of these funds or another one. Offer financial assistance to students studying in the area of Christian vocations. That'd be our vocation fund, general. Promote evangelism. We have an evangelism fund. In local meetings, and be concerned with the growth of the meeting. So we'll always keep that in mind. So whatever you might apply for, keep that in mind as well. Is that going to enhance your meetings, going to increase the numbers? Is it going to help you accomplish your mission? Is it going to help promote the gospel? Well, this past year has not been a very busy year for the Outreach Commission. Funds come in from the investments, and we review what applications that we get. Encourage folks from time to time to apply for these funds. And but like I say, we've done a little bit of work as required, but it has not been a busy year. Let's turn now to the page that shows our fund balances. We have two funds under vocations. One is the general fund, and those funds are available for loans for students that might be studying. Quaker schools are given preference over other schools. Entering the ministry is a requirement, and you have the ability to repay those funds by simply working within our yearly meeting over a period of time. The Barker Fund, June Barker, when she left a sizable amount of money, she defined that as being primarily for pastors. Continuing education, other expenses that they might have, workshops, seminars that they want to attend or they want to sponsor, things that the Ministers Association might come up with. And you'll see that it has a total of $56,275. We have not spent very much money out of that. I left all the balances up from the 21, 22, 23, and 24, and you'll see how they're increasing. So take a look at that one. It was $26,000. It gains about $12,000 a year. This past year, it went up $11,600. So it went from 26.5, almost 6, 35,000, 45,000. Well, if it went up 12,000 a year, should be 57, right? Well, we did spend $1,100. We had one application to attend a continuing education seminar at the Cove, Billy Graham Retreat Center up at Black Mountain. So, but there's still a total of $56,000 in that fund. Church Extension, that is the large fund. That one increases this past year. It increased within a few dollars, been $63,000 is the return that was earned on that particular fund. So if you look at a balance last year of 183, if it gained 63, that number should be 246. But it's only 186. That's because we spent $60,000 for three things, and I'll show you what they are in just a moment. Evangelism fund, much smaller fund, but it's growing also. This past year, it went up $4,674. It increased a little bit. We also had some funds in there that came in from the Askins. So we had, I think it's about $8,000 that we spent of evangelism. So we spent the money that came in, and we spent the money that came in through Askins as well. I don't think I mentioned, but the general fund vocation, it increased $2,100. But we spent a little bit of money on that one. Actually, what happened, if you look back at 23, $12,959, there was some funds that came in last year and reported in that amount of $12,000. It was $2,000 from Askins. It had been budgeted, it came in, it was not spent, so at the end of the year it came out. So we really started with $10,000 $13,959, and if you add the $21.55, you'll get exactly $13,114.93. So those are the fund totals that we have in all four of those. There was a little activity, so Paul, if you'd go to the next slide, we'll show you what the activity was on those funds. From the evangelism fund, we did spend $8,000. We spent $4,000 was budget for Friends Campus Ministry. There was a workshop that was presented at representative body, and the program, that was $2,000, and the program committee submitted a grant for $2,000 as well. I think that one was for mid-year. From vocations, the Barker Fund, I said we spent a little bit of money. That came in of the $11,600, we spent $1,100, and that was for the pastor at Marlboro who went, it was a continuing education seminar at the Cove. For vocations, again, there was no activity other than that $2,000 was returned to the general fund because it wasn't spent. Otherwise, there was no other activity on that fund. Let's go look at the larger fund, and this is church extension. We had $63,000 came in. We spent $60,000. The intern coordinator, I think this makes about the third year. That's a $20,000. We had two grant applications from Thomasville. They were $10,000 each. And we had two applications from Harmony Grove, and they were $10,000 each. I think a report maybe has been given about Harmony Grove, but that's a real success story there. A meeting that had ceased to function, laid down the meeting as far as it being utilized. Revitalization came along, and some friends started attending there. They now have 20-some people attending. I think that was mentioned yesterday, but for you folks that are there now, they have 20-some people and have some speakers that are very consistent. The meeting is doing well, and meantime, they have sold their parsonage and 5 acres, a few acres of land that went with it, about 5. And so they have a good, significant amount of income that they can rely on. And we do not anticipate another grant coming in from Harmony Grove in the future. So we'll have even less expenses coming out of that fund in the future. Let's go ahead and take a look at the others. Here are the procedures for administration of church extension funds. And it's really about the same thing for the others, but this is the larger fund, so I put it on there. The yearly meeting outreach commission shall be vested with the sole authority to approve grants from church extension funds for the purpose of assisting in the organization, spiritual life, and financial needs of new, existing, and small meetings. And the funds may be used for physical facilities, salaries, and program needs. So that's the main thing that we need to keep in mind about the church extension fund. And they are available. You know, we have an application process where any meeting can apply for these funds, whether it be certainly for a new start, they get priority, or for an existing meeting as well. Let's go to the next page on there. There's the rest of the procedures for administration of the funds. But let's review point number 8, which is on the next slide, Paul. If the grant is for an existing meeting, it will be limited as follows. Grants will be limited to no more than 1/2 of the estimated cost of the project. So whatever your project is, those funds are available to assist you in whatever that might be. The grants will be limited to no more than $5,000 in a 3-year period, and the period begins whenever you get your initial grant. Cane Creek was an example of that. They applied for a grant for some sound equipment. It was less than half of that amount, but then later on they had another need, so they applied for the remaining balance, and that's how they used their funds. Ranneman did the same thing. Let me just share with you that probably of our 28 meetings, about 10 have taken advantage of this, and so that leaves the rest of you, and there are some funds there. So if you have an idea on something that might assist your meeting and outreach in your community, don't just replace existing funds, because we want to see the meetings grow. That's part of our focus. That's part of our charge there. So come up with new ideas. Reach out One idea might be to send someone in your community to Quaker Lake. And as a result of that, they might be attracted to come to your meeting. Support the local food bank in your area. So there's many needs out there, and these funds are available to you so you can put them to good use as you see necessary. I have applications for those grants, by the way, so just see me anytime. Anybody have a question about any of those? If you have any question, why just see me sometime about them, okay? Oh, yeah, David.
Are these procedures on the website?
They are. I believe they are. Paul, are they on the web? They should be. And the application's on there, I know. If they're not on the website, they're in our, either in our faith and practice or in our policy manual. We took them, they're just directly in there. I'll be glad to send you a copy of them. Just contact me, all right? Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Is Brenda McKinney in the room? That way? Okay. I'll get her in a minute. I want to take a minute and talk a little bit about Odre Nuevo, our Hispanic congregation that is moving toward becoming a preparatory meeting. It was approved by Yadkin Valley quarterly meeting to move them under the care of Deep Creek Friends as they work toward becoming a preparatory meeting. And it was, of course, Deep Creek approved to take on that role. So that is a little change with them. They're trying to move toward becoming a 501(c) or whatever, so that donations for their new building can be tax deductible. And so that's where we are right now. They have some of the money for the building, they have a foundation in place, but donations would help them go forward. Eric, would you like to speak to us about Thomasville a little bit?
Good morning. Everybody awake yet? No, we'll go get some more coffee, okay? All right. I want to share some scripture before we get started with this update, and I want to go to Mark. I had it in here, but we'll have to find it. Mark chapter 2, and parable that Jesus shared. Mark 2:13 through 17 says, "Once again Jesus went out beside the lake, and a large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting in the tax collector's booth. 'Follow me,' Jesus told him. And Levi got up and followed him. And while Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, 'Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?' And on hearing this, Jesus said to them, 'It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners.'" When they asked me to come to Thomasville, and that's Thomasville's group, I had no clue what I'm doing. I still have no clue what I'm doing. I know it's all up to the Lord, but I still have no clue what I'm doing. What I do know is that we are called as a body of believers to bring sinners to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And that is how we are to grow. Not by bringing other people in from other churches, but that is how we are to grow. And so, one of the challenges that we have at Thomasville is, how do you do that? And it's not easy, is it? They don't come in as easy as they used to. They stay away. Well, I'll tell you that I would love to give you a glowing report, but I can't do that. There were a lot of things that had gone on in Thomasville Friends, and there was a lot of hurt. And it's taken time to get over that hurt and to get back together. And I think we are finally there. I think we have finally gotten there. But it has taken time. I'll tell you, one Sunday we had 9. We've had a couple of Sundays where we had 10. We've had 11. And that can be that is the valley. And there are a lot of valleys in this work. But last Sunday we had 17. And that 17, I knew them, and I know at least 3 or 4 of them do not know the Lord. But they've been coming once in a while. And that's how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to grow. That's how a yearly meeting needs to grow. If you're not bringing in people that are not like you, if you're not bringing people that are sinners, then we're not doing our job. Okay? I have a lot of reports about we need to grow, how we do it. How do you do it? You go bring in people who are not in church, people who do not know the Lord. That's how you grow. And God blesses. So that's what we're working on doing. I like to say that we're just really blowing the roof off. We're not. We've seen some leave over this because it's been tough. It's hard work. But there are a few faithful people that are there. I have a group of 5. There's 5 of us. And we meet 2 times a month on Wednesday night for nothing but prayer. And I'm not talking about going through and listing all the people that need prayer. We have a list, and it's a long list, and it gets longer. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sitting down and having confession. I'm talking about sitting down and praying, giving praise and listing praise and talking about it. I'm talking about a list of people we have in our families, in our neighborhood, that we're praying for that are lost. We prayed for this yearly meeting, this annual sessions, this past Wednesday night. We pray for our leadership. I encourage you to do that. I appreciate that we got this calendar, and I wish I'm not as faithful as I am, but I remember for when I can, and I thank the Lord for all those people and pray for all those churches that are listed on there. We do have some good reports, though. There's some good things going on. The Lord's working. He works with His people, where they're faithful. I have a lady that joined us about 3 or 4 months after we started, and she came in because a lady named Betty Hall passed away. Betty Hall was faithful. I think she came from High Point Friends, and she moved over to Thomasville to help it get started. Betty Hall passed away, and she was part of a group, and this lady wanted to help out with the food for the family. And so she brought this wonderful cake. And she's part of this, some sort of group where they investment group, some sort of investment group. And another lady was a part of that, Carolyn Hedrick, and she says, you may know her, she's been very active, and she since has passed away. But she came in for Carolyn invited her. She came in, and she's been there ever since. She grew up Catholic. Her uncle had taken her son to the Methodist church, but she had never been part of a church and never been really committed herself to the Lord. And she became a member and committed, and she comes to that prayer meeting and our Bible studies that we have on occasion. We have others that are doing that. We have one or two that have joined, and so we praise God for that. We thank y'all for the money that we received to help replace our AC heating unit. We used it this summer. We had a VBS, had 5 kids again, different 5 kids, but we were able to use it for that. But we have replaced our windows. They've been there since 1979, and they were falling apart. Literally, I pushed one day, and the pane completely fell out. They were literally falling apart. And we replaced them all, and I challenged them to do it on our own, and we have raised the funds and more on our own. So they completely did that. I just recently was working with a young lady, Salem Parker, who's from Union Cross Friends, and she is going to come. She's starting at High Point University. She's a music major, and she's going to come and be an intern as a worship leader for us twice a month, which is a praise because my father's been doing that, coming in trying to help us do that. And as you know, my father, you may know my father, you may not, but my father has Parkinson's, and so it is becoming a challenge. But he's been driving down an hour to try to do that for us. So those are some of the good things that are going on. I am going to ask you to write September the 8th down on your calendar, if you would, if you're near our facility, if you've been a part of the church, we invite you to come. They haven't had a homecoming, I don't know when, at least since, I think, 2018, 2019. We are having Jonathan Lotz at our meeting. He is coming that Sunday. We're calling it a Spiritual Renewal Conference, Spiritual Renewal Services. He is coming. If you don't know who Jonathan Lotz is, he is the son of Annie Graham Lotz. He's Billy Graham's grandson. And Jonathan will be coming, and he will be sharing with us at the 10:45 service. We're going to have a covered dish after that. And then he's coming back at 6 that night. And this is the first time they've had any semblance of a revival in quite some time. And so he's coming back at 6. And we're going to have Kernersville Friends Choir to come and give special music. And if you have not heard their music, they have a worship team, a man and wife that they are trained. I think they have a doctorate in music, Mike. I think that's right. And go online and hear them. They are excellent, and they put together a choir. And Jeff Barnes says it's just wonderful now, and so they're going to come and they're going to share in music that night. So if you can come, maybe if you can come that night, that would be wonderful. We are really hoping that some people will come out, and that Jonathan's a great evangelist, and he has a great presentation. He did revival for us at Brandon. So if you're able to do that, please do that. I'm going to read this one piece of scripture, Ephesians 4:4-6. There is one body and one spirit, just as you are called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. You want to know what we're about? What we should be about? That is proclaiming the good news that Jesus Christ is Lord and He has come to save you. And we should be sharing that. One body, one faith, one spirit. No other way but by Jesus Christ may you be saved. I'm going to leave with a challenge. I'm putting a challenge out here for the yearly meeting to consider. And this is I don't want you to take offense on the Revitalization Committee, okay? Please don't take offense. But what I would love for us to consider, I hadn't shared this with anybody. I was up early this morning trying to think through this, pray through this. I've spent a lot of time online with Tom Rayner, or Tom Rainier. I think it goes by Rayner. If you know, I don't know if anybody knows Tom Rayner. I listen to a lot of his stuff. I read a lot of his stuff on church revitalization planning. And I would like for us to consider, since we have the money, why can't we bring somebody outside as consultant who has the knowledge, who's done the study, who's done the work, who's had success in helping revitalize churches, and let them come in and help work with some of our churches? Thomasville can't afford to do that, obviously. But I think we can as a body. David Milliken said, can we get behind, find something that we really, what we're challenged to do and want to do, and then let's put the money towards it. I challenge you. I want you to, I really wish you would consider this. Thomasville is not the only one struggling. If I ask how many of you have 30 or more on a Sunday morning, how many would raise their hand? How many, you know? There's a lot of us that are under 30, and we need help. And we could use an outside voice coming from the outside. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I put that challenge out there for y'all to consider. Thank you.
Brenda, would you like to come up and speak to us a little bit about Baltimore Friends?
Our friends from Baltimore had a long night. They left work yesterday and drove 7 to 8 hours to get here. So we won't see them till later today. But you will see many of them tonight because they are our special music and they will be singing for us during our time of worship. Friends Church Baltimore is thriving, growing. Their pastor is Gilbert Mbai. Their associate pastor is Ronald Sekini. Both of them are very well educated. They currently have master's degrees, but they're pursuing more degrees, Gilbert from Berkeley College and Ronald from George Fox University. They're very impassioned speakers, and they are wonderful pastors. They minister to their congregation. They have weekly Bible study and prayer meeting by Zoom because they're in Baltimore and many of their people live in the suburbs around. And so sometimes it's, I don't know if you know how traffic is in Baltimore, but meeting by Zoom on a weekday night is a good idea. They asked us, Yadkin Valley White Plains Friends, their sponsoring meeting, and Yadkin Valley Quarter, they're under our care as a preparatory meeting, and they asked us if they could be recorded. So yesterday, Yadkin Valley Quarter did recommend that those two gentlemen be recorded, and FCNC approved, Ministry and Council approved that they come under the care of our yearly meeting recording committee. They are currently renting a space at Stony Run Friends, which has an adjacent school. And they meet in the music room at the school. And they would really like to have their own meeting space. And so they're working with a realtor, a very nice lady, who kind of is bending over backwards to help this congregation to find, and you can find churches that have been laid down. So she's working faithfully with them, and so I'm hoping that you'll feel generous in giving a donation to them because that's what they're working towards. Everyone that I know personally has a full-time job, including Gilbert and Ronald. Most of them are in healthcare. And they very much would like to be able to say, this is our meeting place, this is our church, this is where we meet. Brent and I have visited with them several times, and sometimes where they meet has moved around because something was happening or something was going on, and it took us a while to find them. So do you understand how important it is? They have a meeting space where they can keep their sound equipment, their musical instruments. So please encourage them when you see them later in the day, because they're a very warm, welcoming group themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Is there anyone here who would like to bring us up to speed on Kernersville Friends? I know in talking with Brent yesterday, the monies that we approved for their family life minister have not been used yet because they haven't been able to recruit someone to fill that position at this point in time, but that's still an ongoing situation there, ongoing need. Brent, if you would come back and share with us about Jamaica.
How much time do we have, Roger? You don't have to answer that. I could talk a while about Jamaica. We did go to Jamaica this year for the 32nd consecutive year and provided Vacation Bible School. There were 4 of us from FCNC that departed on July the 22nd. We went down. We were there for 12 days this year. We met our Jamaica partners that afternoon, and then we all moved into a large house that we had rented, and so we stayed together for the duration of visiting our meetings that we provide VBS in. Members of our team from here were Amanda Draga and her son William Draga from Winthrop. Of course, Michael and myself rounded out that group, and there we met with Anthony Moody and his wife Myra. Some of you know Anthony, and Myra is named after Myra Brady. Every time I go and meet them, and especially this year, I was just so impressed with Myra. And I know that the original Myra would be so impressed with this young lady. She's now 29 years old. But she was named by her mother when she was, after she'd known her for just a few years there. But Myra is growing and developing. She's such a kind young lady and so helpful. She's very creative. She's energetic and doing a wonderful job in the ministry that they provide there. Shaquille is their son. He's 14 now, and what an intelligent fella. While I was there, I presented him with his winnings from the art contest sponsored by USFW. And this made the second year that he had come in one of the top 3 places for that award. And then we had Samantha McFarland. We've known Samantha since 2017. She was one of our counselors whenever we went down and sponsored Quaker Life Camp. They don't have a lake, but we patterned it tremendously after our Quaker Lake program here, and complete with a campfire, a bonfire on Thursday evening, and young people gathered around. And one of the most impressive things that inspired me this time was we were at Cascade Friends meeting, and one of the young fellows there asked me, are we going to have camps again sometime? He remembered our days when we had camp. It was in 18 and 19, before COVID came along. Georgia McFarland, her sister, Georgia was our cook. I thought it'd be better this year, and we might could save some money and save some time instead of going out and trying to find restaurants and paying expensive prices, and about the only thing you're going to find is a KFC, and those are kind of sparse. So we brought in Georgia, who is an excellent cook, and we went to the grocery store, and she provided our meals each day, and she also prepared the sandwiches that we carried to every meeting that we went to provide VBS. Last year, we asked if there were any changes, any improvements that we could do in our program we provided, and the Jamaica friend said, we'd like to have something more substantial than just a sweetie at the end of our VBS. So we carried everyone juice and sandwiches this year, and a big shout out to the Quaker men at Cedar Square. They provided us with $2,000, and that covered and just about came out even for our food expenses while we were there. Divine Martin is another young lady who has been with us for several years. Creative, energetic, one of our main players. Divine is studying at the university, and she's going into, Michael, help me, was it law enforcement? Law enforcement, and she had just completed her medical training, and so she's moving right along, and probably with this coming year, she will complete that. I think Divine is 22 years old now. Well, the next three, Edgar Oakley, Jade Martin, are 14 years old. Now, Jade Martin is the son of Janelle Martin, who was one of our youth leaders in Jamaica at Port Antonio. And her son, Jade, is now 14, and his friend Edgar joined us, and they were just super kids. Really helped us out, jumped in, and had a lot of fun and brought a lot of energy to our program. And then we had another lady, Zoe Singh. She's 15 years old, and she joined us as well, and hopefully all three of them will be back to join us again. Our procedures were, we divided into two teams. We had 6 people in each team, and we went out, and most of the time we'd go to 2 meetings. We'd have team 1 and team 2, except for the first morning. When we started our program, one of our meetings in Jamaica, they had teamed up with a neighborhood church to combine their vacation Bible school, and it conflicted with ours, and they were sent their regrets, and they'll be back in the fold another year and probably bring their neighborhood friend with them. So we went to 8 different meetings. We saw a total of 175 students while we were there, and we visited each meeting 3 times. So 8 times 3 is 24. Actually, it was 23, because Cascade we went to for a long session on Saturday, a shorter session on Sunday afternoon, so we only went there for 2 sessions, but at each one we covered our 5 stories. We did arts, we did crafts, we played games. The kids really had a good time. Let me show you a few pictures from it. There's the motley crew that left FCNC. We were sitting on the steps at Seaside. Seaside is just that beautiful building and a beautiful setting, a strong meeting on the inside of this building. It's a postcard picture. They're not very active. Dr. Horace Hall, a medical doctor, has not been well for a couple of years now, so their attendance is off, and we did not provide VBS there. We went up to Top Mora. Top Mora is hard to find and hard to get there, but look at the crowd that was waiting on us when we arrived. Michael does an outstanding job. I won't brag on him too much since he's here. Very impressive storyteller. I love to listen to him. Even whenever I hear the same story 5 times, it was quite a program. And the kids came out, and they just love it. They love for us to be there and minister to them. Enjoyed being at Top Mara this year. They have a pastor, a new pastor. After Dr. Shan passed away about 3 years ago, they now have a young lady named Julie Wilson, who is their pastor. Then we went to Dover in the afternoon. This is Anthony Moody's home church. We had a smaller group, a little bit more than either one of those pictures there. I think 15, 18, 22, somewhere along in there. We had a nice group. Divine, by the way, Divine Martin is the lady to your left who has the white pants on. And you'll see Amanda. Amanda Drago is in the right side, right at the back of Anthony Moody's head. Is Amanda here this morning? Hey, Amanda, good morning. Monitor what I'm saying. You might want to add to something in a minute there. Let's go to our next one. Here we went up to Cascade. And we went up to Cascade in the Blue Mountains on the weekend. We had a smaller group. I'm reminded here that we made the photo of every student while we were there, 175 pictures. We printed them out in the evenings, carried them back the following day, and they made picture frames to put their pictures in. They put little stickers around them. Friends, those pictures will be in their homes a decade from now. They love to have little pictures. They have no way of making a picture and printing it out. Back in the day, in the good old days, we would take a Polaroid camera and a Polaroid film whenever you could do that. And really, you go back a decade later, and probably some of them are still there. Those pictures are still sitting in their home somewhere or another. So they left to do that, and we did that for each one of them this year. Cascade, Michael brought the message on Sunday. We had about 27 people there. It was a wonderful time. I love to go to Cascade. I love to stay up there. Not particularly the cold showers, but nevertheless, I love to go up to Cascade. It's a beautiful part of the area. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we didn't have any water, did we? Yeah. Well, Michael, I had told Michael that you could take a bath with about 3 quarts of water, because I had done it one time. I scooped it out of a barrel with a milk jug, and Michael told me the next day that he'd take a shower with about half a gallon, so 2 quarts there. It can be done, folks. We're testaments for that. Let's see what we got. Well, here we are at Belfield. David Robinette. Where are you, David? There you are. Look familiar? We have worked on this building on the back side. It was rotted away. We put in new windows. We put in a new floor up at the front. We put in new windows there, but we left there a couple of years ago. You can see how bad the roof is. It needs a roof. It leaks. And then we had a youth meeting in there with, 20, 25 children, and the floor is on the ground. The floor joist broke, a couple of them did, and so that's why we could not go inside. But when we arrived at the site, people in the area had bought a tarp, and there was a young man putting that tarp up on poles. So when Michael and I brought the benches and the desk outside, and Michael and his crew did Vacation Bible School under the tarp, and while Amanda and I and our team went on up to Highgate. We need to go back, David. We got a little work to do there. There are people in this area, and they would love to have a church for funerals and gatherings and meetings and worship. I don't know how they do it, but we had a pretty good crowd at that area. They knew we were there, so they turned out very well. Then we went to Highgate. We went on up the hill. We got up to Highgate. There was 40 kids up there, 40 or 42. That were assembled at Highgate, and we just had a wonderful time there, as you can tell from all of our pictures. The bottom left corner, those five little guys, they were all on their bench just coloring away, doing one of their crafts. I got them to look up at me for just a moment to snap that photo. The girl that's in the middle, on the bottom there, if I could put her in a suitcase and brought her home, I would have. She is such a sweetie. They all are. They're wonderful to be with. It's just a joy to be with the kids. I'm telling y'all some of these things, and if anyone gets inspired and would like to go with us sometime, we need more people. That's the thing that we need. We need more people to go with us so we can have more time to spend with the kids, and maybe even stay just a wee bit longer than we were able to this year, because we had to move on and get to another meeting. Then we went to Quaker Hill. My team went to Quaker Hill, and we met in their school, the primary school, which is on the property right beside of the meeting house. They have a school there with about 20-some students in it normally. And Amanda, how many students were there this time?
The first day we had like 5 or 6, and we ended up with a total of 15.
Had about 15 of the students there. And you can tell, we had a good time at Quaker Hill. I got to meet Isaiah Campbell. Isaiah's the pastor there. He told me he was 93 years old in 6 months, and still doing well. Very wise man. I always enjoy talking to him. Michael went to Friendstown, And there we had kind of a small group to start with, but it built up. And did we have 20 or so there? Over 20 there eventually. When they hear the first day that you're there, they come out the second day and the third day, and anytime they know that we're there. Sometimes the word doesn't get out, as was the case this year at about 3 or 4 of these meetings. And that's the end of it. So I'll end on this note. 32 years of Vacation Bible School, 175 kids that went there. Join us sometime. We need a little bit of help. Young friends, if you want to do missions, we got one for you. All you have to do is get on the bus. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Let's take about a 10-minute break. Let everybody get up and stretch and get a little coffee and talk with your neighbors and be mindful of the time. We'll be back in 10 minutes.